So, hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728. And what do coronavirus variants, shale oil, and right-wing extremism, what do they have in common? I'll get into that in a second. Like I said, I'm Earthling, yada, yada, yada. And I broke my ankle a number of years ago. And I thought that, okay, I'd get the cast off and then I would just be able to just walk around fine without any problem. As it turns out, no. It takes a couple of months for whatever reason to be able to walk properly again. And yeah, anyway, as myself, I have traveled around the world a bit. I want to do it some more. I took up the Latin dancing and ballroom dancing in order to get closer to girls. It helped a little bit. I also was in the Army Reserves, and I had some experience with weapons, ammunition, been on the range a couple of times. It's all right. Anyway, coronavirus variants, right-wing extremism, and what was the other one? Shale oil. What do they have in common? Well, they're all getting stronger. The shale oil industry is getting stronger. The coronavirus variants are probably becoming easier, making themselves easier to infect people. And right-wing extremism is probably going to have an increase. Now, why? Why do I say all of these things? Well, because there is pressure. With respect to things happening after the Capitol Hill, the storming of the Capitol Hill, that will go into legend, right, in the U.S. A lot of those right-wing places have gotten some pressure. Like that app called Parler, it has no home. I don't know if it's going to continue. Facebook and Twitter and what are these other places? Facebook, Twitter, and yeah, they've kicked people off of their service who are engaging in right-wing stuff. So that means that they're gonna have to go underground. Now I was talking to my sister about this, and yeah, there's undoubtedly it's a good thing. I'm sorry if you are right-wing extremist. It's undoubtedly a good thing that those things are not more easily accessible, because it means that Trump cannot reach 89 million followers with every single tweet that he has. So that's a good thing. So if he were to say, and the Cubians now, he has no place to say that. So that's really great. And it's the same thing with Facebook and Twitter and whatever else. On the other hand, what it means is that WhatsApp groups are not going to be, they are secured, end-to-end encryption, Telegram, all these other things. You're going to need to know how to get into them. And it's like, what's the name of those places? Places like 4chan, and they used to have certain Reddit groups. Those people are probably going to spend more time on those platforms. They're going to have a bigger echo chamber, not bigger in terms of wider, but a more concentrated one, because they're not going to see videos of cats and get distracted. They're going to be there for a purpose in their group or on that chat, and they can probably become more serious about whatever it is that their goals are. So yeah, there might be that. That's what I'm thinking. And the reason why I say that is because I once saw an experiment that they had where they were using bacteria, and they had bacteria set up where there were certain strips where the bacteria were growing into, and they would have one particular type of antibiotic that was blocking the bacteria from growing any further. And then after that, there was another band of antibiotic, and another one, and another one, and another one. And of course, as the bacteria grew into the first antibiotic, many of them died. And what is it, the colony, it became smaller. But what was happening was that there were bacteria that grew all the way to the end. And those bacteria, of course, would have been the guys that now are resistant to all of those antibiotics that their foreparents passed in order to get to the end. And unfortunately, I think it would be the same thing with right-wing extremism. Now, what does that have to do with the coronavirus? Well, I noticed, and I'd been seeing this quite a lot, I'd noticed a lot of different titles that were saying that, the flu and other respiratory-related illnesses, that they had taken a dive. So the idea is that because of mask wearing, because of whatever social distancing has been occurring, these respiratory illnesses have not been able to make the jump from human to human as much as they would in the average year. But at the same time, the coronavirus has still managed to continue to spread, which, I finally saw one headline that said, hey, to me, and I'll paraphrase what I understood it as, hey, don't you get it? The coronavirus is serious because all of these other respiratory illnesses, they've been shut down. And I know there's a little bit of doubt concerning that. It could just simply be that people who think they just have a cold or something, they just don't go to get tested. Maybe, I don't know. But I was just thinking that could have been a possibility. But it could just also be that the coronavirus is just that much better at spreading. And the variants are supposed to be more infectious. So, what if that's as a result of only the strong survive? So only the most infectious viral mutations survive. So by us using social distancing and face masks, we are weeding out the most infectious strains of the coronavirus. So that would be kind of not so bad if everybody was going to get vaccinated. But for the people who are not going to get vaccinated, what that means is that this thing is going to be that much easier to catch. And when I've gone into the descriptions about the changes in the virus, it is an idea. The idea has been communicated that the prongs that create the spike proteins that latch on to the human cells, they are getting better at latching on to human cells, meaning that there are, I can't remember the exact changes of form of the protein themselves, but that's the implication. The prongs are getting better at latching onto human cells, which means that you don't really need as many of them in order for someone to become infected. Because I imagine it's really an odds game. So if you have enough viral particles, as they might say, or viruses get into your system, there's a better chance that one of them is going to be able to latch on to a cell and propagate itself into your system. So that I find is kind of interesting. On the other end, there is US shale, and I imagine just shale in general across the world. I don't know that things could have ever ended up a different way, but the whole idea is that the reason why US shale did so well is because the price of oil ended up being so high. So it was worthwhile for the technology, which would have been somewhat restrictive, I imagine, in the beginning, to be invested in, and people were able to reap the benefits at the high prices. Of course, once the Saudis did their due and they restricted the amount of oil that they were pumping, it meant that, well, actually, no, I think they flooded the market. Is that it? So that drove down the price of oil, and the technology had developed at a high price. So, of course, different drillers are going to go out of business. The problem is that there's always somebody who is going to, of course, try to innovate and be able to do everything at a lower price. And that's what happened. And even if one company goes out of business, the know-how is still there. And as long as the technology has developed to run at a cheaper price, which, all of the people who delivered the water, the people who perhaps made the formulations for the liquid that they pumped underground, the people who were selling the sand, everybody just had to make do at a cheaper price. Whether they introduced automation, whether they improved their formulations, whether they laid off people and worked people harder, whatever it was, shale oil has lowered its break-even point over and over again. And once it can, even though the existing company might go bankrupt, there is always going to be somebody else who's like, well, you went bankrupt because of your obligations that were at a higher price. And now I can come in and leverage the technological innovations and be able to make money at a much lower price, which means that, the Saudis, by trying to kill shale oil, you can't really kill it, because there's always going to be somebody who can buy up the, distressed company and try again with the advantage of the new technology. So unfortunately, the bells are tolling, the writing is on the wall for the Saudis and being able to maintain any kind of prices, because every time they try, there's the adage that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And unfortunately, in this case, even if it kills existing companies, it makes the industry stronger. And by making the industry stronger, you're not going to die. I mean, it's not that you're not going to die. It doesn't matter if the companies die. It doesn't matter if they go bankrupt. So, I mean, we would hope that something like that would not happen with right-wing extremism. But unfortunately, that's where it seems like it might be heading. There are a lot of people who, I was looking at some Washington Post, a story, an article about people who have found their new calling. This guy, he went from not having many followers at all to starting multiple Facebook groups, each of which subsequently got banned. But I'm sure he can always, start up. I don't know how you start up like a WhatsApp group with thousands and thousands of people. Maybe you can't run that. I don't know. But to round everything out, unfortunately for the environment, the shale oil industry is going to be progressively more and more resilient in the future. Coronavirus variants are probably going to be more and more infectious in the future, because they have to be in order to survive. Well, the idea is simply that the less infectious strains will die out. As people across the world, I don't think we're going back to shaking hands anytime soon or not wearing masks, because so many people are not even going to be able to get a vaccine initially. That's one thing. It's probably going to take many, many years, not like 20 years, but it's probably going to take like five years for most people who want to be vaccinated to be readily vaccinated, have already been vaccinated. So between shale oil, which is death knell for the Saudis between the coronavirus and especially its mutations. That's not a good thing for us. And right-wing extremism, having to go underground is the whole idea is that there are more people because of Trump, and they have been forced underground or people are trying to force them underground. I don't see them going away, especially when you buy bullets and bulletproof vests and guns. There's just going to be that much more weapons, and Trump is going to have a lot more time to be out there with that kind of stuff. I don't know. Anyway, feel free to like, dislike, look at more of my stuff, give me suggestions about what to talk about. I'm not saying that I'm going to listen. And anything else that you would like if this were your stuff. So you have a good one. Peace.